Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Marathon Night, where we take on a older series, might be from the 90s or so, and instead of doing episode by episode, we still do that, but it's in chunks. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this, and joining me is my lovely wife, Andrea. Andrea, we are getting near to the end of Beyblade Season 1. Are you getting a little sad?
Yeah.
Because Beyblade's almost over.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Bladebreakers is almost over.
At least this season, yes.
The Bladebreakers.
Hmm.
I'll continue to do things backwards because it'll just happen. We are here to talk about episodes 41 through 44. We technically have 3, including this episode, we have 3 left that we have before we are done with the first season. And how appropriate, because we are going to the cold of Mother Russia. Because now if people remember the last episode that we did, the Bladebreakers were officially in Russia and starting to see the oppressive way that they train their bladers. In the fact that if you cannot beat these Bladebreakers, you will be killed or exiled.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really sure because kid never shows up again. But take of that what you will, comrade. So let's go ahead and start things off with episode 41, Out of the Past. So this is a lot of these episodes are have kind of a consistent theme in regards to Kai, because the previous episode was teasing that Kai might actually have a history with the academy the BBA academy or training ground that the Russian team has. So at that point, we start to see that Kai is being plagued by nightmares of the person that he says, or the person that we know as Boris. And for some reason, he knows him, but he's not sure why. And immediately what happens is, crap, I have to remember names now again. Ray notices that he has a nightmare and says, well, you could go and hang out with us and check out the sites, because that was their plan since the tournament hasn't started yet. But Kai instead opts to go do his own thing because it's Kai. Kai has to go work on his massive pecs, or find tighter shirts and baggier pants. I don't know. But overall, what happens in this episode is that they all have basically their own itinerary, which is that Tyson and Kenny are going to go and check out the sites of Moscow. But Max and Ray are going to be checking out I can't remember what they actually called it, but I think they said it was just the park, but it's supposed to be like the premier place where all of the Beybladers in Russia gather, and it's supposed to be like one of the biggest areas. So they want to go check out maybe the competition and maybe also see just some really good Beyblade action. And even Tyson and Kenny say like, oh, we'll join you later because we want to see that too. And Kai, basically, I don't think we actually see him for a lot of this episode, but he's basically trying to sneak back in to the same training facility they were at. So he tries to sneak in there to maybe figure out why this facility is so familiar to him. But long story short, we actually have a couple of reunions, because once Max and Ray reunite with Tyson and Kenny, we find out that the All-Stars are here. And then eventually we find out that the White Tigers are here. And for some reason, none of them... Well, the All-Stars were wearing coats. But the White Tigers were only wearing, like, really thin cloaks. So I'm guaranteeing you that all of the White Tigers are going to come back deathly sick. So, but we actually do get to have a couple of really cool Beyblade matches that happen. Just casual exhibition matches. I believe Mariah and Emily actually fight. putting up Galax versus Trigator, and then Kenny and Lee actually go ahead and face off, putting up Trigal against Galleon. And it's just a casual match, and it's everybody just all enjoying Beyblading together, right? And we basically end the episode with Kai finally being able to get into the facility, and then he starts to kind of remember why he knows this place. Turns out Kai grew up here, because Kai actually trained to be a Beyblader in this facility, and he knows Boris, but he only knows Boris as something more sinister, because we have this weird Superman Clark Kent situation where Boris, his regular face, Kai doesn't recognize him. But when he puts on these really weird, evil-looking cybernetic glasses,
like a visor,
like that makes him look like an 80s anime villain, Kai immediately knows who he is. And knows he is the person that basically trained him. And so at that point, that's kind of how the episode ends, with Kai realizing that he actually trained in this facility. And so yeah, it's kind of an intermediate, or not in kind of an intermission episode, where we kind of get to see the setup of the Russian tournament, because we know that, you know, the White Tigers, the All-Stars are there to face off. We didn't see the Majestics, so I guess they're still not interested. Although considering their prestige, I'm pretty sure they could get a spot if they wanted it. Final thoughts on Out of the Past. What did it do right? What did it do wrong? I like intermission episodes like this because it kind of sets up the next tournament. So I'll say that's a plus. Do you have any others?
No, I mean it's a good type of filler episode that at least has some meaning to it.
Where do we think the Kai reveal is on that? Is it a good reveal or a bad reveal?
About him going in there?
Well, finding out about his past.
I mean, I think it's a good reveal, at least getting to know what's going on.
I think it's a little bit of both, because I do like the reveal that, you know, he actually lived there and he was trained there. But, you know, I just barely built all this up. The whole Superman Clark Kent bullshit of the only reason Kai didn't recognize Boris is because he wasn't wearing his cybernetic glasses. That was stupid. Because, you know, when we think about memory, you should have recognized his voice, right? You should have recognized his build, kind of thing.
That's
but
true.
No, the cybernetic glasses, that's how you recognized him.
Yeah, but you just kind of find it funny that it's like, he must have been at least still kind
of... Oh,
yeah,
it's a kooky anime trope. It really is.
But it's like, you would obviously have to be kind of still fairly young to not remember who, you know.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, how young could Kai have been?
That's true.
At that point,
when he left.
5. So 5 years. That's not enough for like the memory to degrade too badly. I don't think, because they're supposed to be like 10 to 12 in this series.
That's true, but you kind of wonder, like, how on earth could he, you know, like, not remember something like that, you know?
Sure, and that's why I'm saying it's like it's a good reveal, but it's also a bad one, because then you kind of question why. I mean, if Kai was in his 20s and didn't remember, okay, I'd buy that. And I'd be totally fine with it. But he was 5. Like 4, let's just say at the earliest he was 3 or 4. That's still like 7 years.
I mean, not unless if they did, like he had some kind of amnesia or something.
I don't know. They made it sound like it was trauma. And I don't know why, because the next few episodes kind of make me question whether or not it was trauma. But overall, out of 5, what would we give Out of the Past? 3.
About a 3, yeah.
Yeah, it's not difficult, or it's in the middle. And so we go into episode 42 from there, Drawn to the Darkness. And this is more centered around Kai. Because the way that they kind of build it is the whole thing at the park is still kind of happening. But because Boris has found Kai and has basically kind of teased Kai about well, you really should just drop those Bladebreakers and you should come back and play for us because we'll be able to give you nothing but power and all the things that you want. To which Kai kind of laughs him off because the reasoning that's being given is Kai is such a perfectionist. He's already become a very powerful Beyblader on his own. Why would he need Boris? And so Boris basically just kind of makes the claim of like, all right, keep making your way through this facility, and you tell me whether or not we can actually benefit each other. And we also kind of learn a little bit about the background of this facility, because it belongs to what is called the BioVault Corporation. The BioVault Corporation is the company that basically pays for... They make it sound like it pays for the BBA, but I don't know if it does. But they definitely make it sound like it pays for the Russian team. And so at that point, like, they already say that, BioVault has basically world domination in mind. So the way to look at it is this is the G.I. Joe equivalent of Cobra, but with tops. Kind of thing. And so Kai continues to be tested in the sewers while making his way through it because he feels compelled to go specific directions in the sub-basements. To which he gets subjected to just numerous tests, most of which involving bringing out these AK-47 type launchers with Beyblades in them, and just having Kai and Dronzer destroy the ever-loving crap out of them. There's just nothing but wreckage. And the cool part about this is that all of this is being done from a different type of animation, so it feels... So like Beyblade, if those people don't know, it was like late 90s, 2000s kind of anime. And for some reason, the animation style goes back to like the 80s or the early 90s. When Kai is destroying all these Beyblades and all of the launchers and everything like that. He's doing a lot of damage to the BioVault Corporation. But Boris, he doesn't care. He's like, it's okay. He's making his way deeper. He'll figure things out. And they continue to kind of talk and banter via a loudspeaker. And Boris keeps on saying, like, we could really benefit each other, but Kai doubts it because of his perfectionist kind of look on his blading technique. And him and Dronzer are already really good until he finally gets where he's been being compelled to go this entire time. And it's basically a vault with this giant claw on top of what looks like a Beyblade. And Kai immediately recognizes the Beyblade as Black Dronzer. I'm not sure what the difference is between Black Dronzer and Dronzer, but apparently it's way more powerful. And it's so powerful, in fact, that Kai actually tried to use it when he was super young and couldn't control it, and it did significant damage to everybody. And they basically start to blame the loss of memories on that incident with Black Dronzer. And that's why it didn't work. But now Boris is convinced that he's a much better Beyblader than he was as a little kid, and he can wield Black Dronzer now. And so that's his offer. Join the Russian team, leave the Bladebreakers, join the Russian team, and we will give you Black Dronzer. To which Kai is compelled to accept. So it's basically Kai is going to join the dark side because he's known about this Beyblade and known that he was the guy to use it, that he is the perfect Beyblader to be able to harness the true power of Black Dronzer. And so he openly, willingly states, yes, I'll join your team and leave the Bladebreakers. Just give me Black Dronzer. And I should point out that after this, like, the other kind of side story in this episode is that the other kids in the Bladebreakers, they've all kind of separated from the park, and Tyson's worried because they haven't seen Kai yet. And in fact, he didn't come back to the hotel. So they immediately assume, given what Ray told them when he woke up from a nightmare, that maybe he's gone back to that same place, and they try to go see him. Well, this time, apparently the BioVault Corporation has Russian military guarding this facility that we didn't know about, and so they're preventing them in every way that they can, so much so that they actually have to pull out what we find out later is half, roughly, of the Russian team to stop them in their tracks. And then as soon as Kai accepts, they immediately tell them via their headsets that Kai is sick. He's been out in the cold weather for far too long. Come back tomorrow and maybe he'll want to talk to you, but they're going to treat him first. And that's kind of how the episode ends, is that the Bladebreakers go back to the hotel, ready to go meet up with Kai as soon as he is feeling better. So, Drawn to the Darkness, what did it do right, Andrea? I think it actually was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty dark in some ways, just because we start to learn like more about Kai and Kai's elitism and why he's, you know, the Beyblader that he is, the Bladebaiter that he is. So I like that. I will say that the negative to me is Black Dronzer to an extent, just because it really isn't explained in this episode what makes Black Dronzer so different from Dronzer, and how could you have made Black Dronzer without the original Dronzer? So technically, wouldn't Dronzer still be more powerful than Black Dronzer?
Not unless the Black Dronzer, black version.
We know the Black Dronzer is artificially created, because one of the rooms that gets showcased during Kai's excursion is they actually are like artificially creating bit beasts and
I guess that's true.
Stuff like that, because they have like a bunch of tubes with bit beasts being put into bits for Beyblades. And so at that point, we know that Black Dronzer is artificially created. But again, that just kind of implies that Dronzer was first. And so wouldn't Dronzer be the more powerful one? And on top, the other thing that helps my argument is, what's the Beyblade that he's using throughout all of this to trash all of their Beyblades? It's Dronzer!
Yeah.
So at that point, what makes Black Dronzer so much more powerful? We will find out in the next episode, but to me that was just like a little bit of a negative. And also, if you had to, like, when you go into the vault where Black Dronzer is, like, there's chains and there's this big claw over it. It's like, you had to go through all of this effort to seal it, and yet you're just willing to give it to a 10-year-old kid?
Not to mention, it's like,
I mean, granted, he has to work for you, but you still had to go through all that, and then you're willing to hand it over to a 10-year-old kid.
Well, I'm just kind of surprised Kai wouldn't just say up and left with Black Dronzer and say,
right,
peace out. I got what I want.
I mean, obviously they set the agreement in motion.
Yeah.
So he couldn't just peace out and go back to the Bladebreakers.
Yeah.
But
still, even if he didn't go back with the Bladebreakers,
he still could have gone off and just done his own thing.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it's just like, okay, considering that this is this mega corporation that's, bent on world domination, I don't see your logic here.
I don't even know why he would go into that kind of...
But even more importantly, we do actually get another connection, because, we were kind of wondering this when we were watching, like, wait, who was the person that Kai was talking to before the European tournament, or before the US tournament? I thought it was his father. You said it was his grandfather. Turns out the grandfather is actually part of BioVolt, and has actually been training Kai when he left their facility to make him ready to take the Black Dronzer. So at that point, just, okay, I like this stuff, but again, you're gonna hand it over to the 10-year-old kid that could easily just walk away and destroyed all your assets, and it's like a positive and a negative if you get my viewpoint. But basically, the whole purpose of this episode redeems it, because it is Kai going to the dark side, which is basically something that's been being teased this entire series. Is like, Kai is too much of a loner to become like a team player for the Bladebreakers. He eventually would break off on his own.
Not to mention, he looked like he was on a mission to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we knew that there was a mission there, and even when you saw him with his gang in the first couple of episodes, he really didn't treat them like a team. He treated them as a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually does kind of make sense. So, out of 5, what would we give Drawn to the Darkness? I'm making you answer first.
3.5 probably.
Okay. I'd give it a 4. Just because I do like the plot that they're going with is that Kai is going to turn to the dark side and primarily because of power. And it is really, like, for all the people who want to go, oh, this is such a stupid kind of 90s era plot, they actually do kind of explain, in my opinion, very well why the draw of additional power would be tantalizing to Kai, because of the fact that he's such a perfectionist and he knows that he can be better. And so they kind of do tease that maybe he feels Dronzer's holding him back. And then when he sees the black Dronzer, he's like, okay, there you go. That's the Bladebreaker I need. See, this is why I say it keeps on happening. So there you go. That's 42. Let's go into 43. Live and Let Kai. I love the titles from here on in. So we are now officially at the first day of the Beyblade World Championships in Moscow. And so immediately everybody goes to check out the new arena, and the Bladebreakers are immediately trying to look around for Kai because they still haven't seen him. They do meet up with the White Tigers and the All-Stars, and then they also do learn of the Russian team's name, the Demolition Boys. And this is where they actually figure out that the two Beybladers that they fought that night trying to get to Kai were in fact part of the Demolition Boys. So at that point, okay, now we know that this is the Russian team, and this is where, we start to realize how much of a threat they are, especially considering that in the bout that they were having, I can't remember the kid's name that he was fighting off that Tyson was facing off against, but even in that fight, he was noticing that this guy's no joke. Like, he's really good at what he does. So we start to get that moment, and I believe, yes, so the first round, the Demolition Boys are put up against the All-Stars. And so at that point, we actually get to see the two kids that we saw before, which I believe, I cannot remember the second one's name, but one of them is Yuri. I believe that's the one with the big ass nose. Sorry guys, it's anime. That's the way it goes. Oh no, Ian. Ian was the first one. Yuri is the one I was thinking of, the creepy looking one. So Ian takes out Steve, or Steve was the one with the bison, right? The football one. Okay. Ian takes out Steve, and it's no issue for him. He basically makes if people remember when the All-Stars faced off against the Bladebreakers early on, it's kind of like that bout, but with Steve being trounced by Ian.
Mm-hmm.
And then Yuri takes on Eddie, and Eddie is the interesting one because of the Scorpion Beyblade, and so, we're thinking, okay, well, he's going to get poisoned again or whatever. No, it turns out that Yuri beats him as well, and he schools him pretty hard also. And this is when the final reveal happens. So Michael is up next, I believe. I think it was, yeah, Michael is up next, but their third member is Kai. And this is when it's revealed to everybody Kai has left the Bladebreakers and has joined the Demolition Boys. And obviously the Bladebreakers are very shocked by this, as well as I think they even show the reaction of the White Tigers and the All-Stars when this happens. And Kai faces off against Michael with Black Dronzer. And in fact, actually, no. He instead says Michael is not a challenge for him, and he allows for all of the All-Stars to face him and Black Dronzer. And this is where we get to see how powerful Black Dronzer actually is, where he trounces all of them. And hard. Like the stuff with Ian and Yuri that we saw before that, nowhere near in comparison to the absolute squash match that Kai gets against all four of them. But we also get to learn of another interesting perk of Black Dronzer. He apparently can absorb bit beasts. And so Kai deems all of them unworthy of having bit beasts and takes Trigator, Tripio, Trihorn, and Trigull. For all the people who got mad at me with the All-Star episodes, how I could never remember what their names were. There you go. He takes all of them. And I believe all of the Beyblades were destroyed. Like, utterly destroyed after that, weren't they?
I don't think they were destroyed. I think it was the next match against the White Tigers.
Okay, that one might be the one.
That's when he started. Well, unless if one of them got destroyed, but I don't think all of them got destroyed. But
So the Demolition Boys advance, and people are still like reeling from the fact that Kai has betrayed the Bladebreakers, and he's not answering to anybody. Like, Kai's not answering to anybody in that regard. He is basically elitist Kai that we've known for the longest time, and everybody else is unworthy of his time. But now he's viewed by everybody as a legitimate threat because of the fact that Black Dronzer destroyed four powerful Beyblades all at once and took their bit beasts. And then we get a really sad scene, that even I've got to admit is a sad scene, where the All-Stars are walking away because they're eliminated. And if people remember, Mariah and Emily had a match in the park and became friends after that. And so Mariah sees Emily and immediately wants to go and comfort her, or see if she's doing okay, because she saw Trigator getting absorbed by Black Dronzer. And that's the moment where we get Emily with tears in her eyes, and Mariah gains the resolve that she wants to take down Kai. Which even I've got to admit, that's a sad scene. Why? Because, like, the way that Bit Beasts have been proclaimed throughout all of the series is they're basically like Ash and Pikachu. They are teammates as far as they are concerned. Tyson looks at Dragoon no less than Ash does at Pikachu, or Tai Agumon. And so at that point, it's almost like when they took the Bit Beasts, they took a piece of Kai took a piece of themselves as well. And so I actually do like this, and this kind of fuels Tyson to want to get answers. And that's how this episode ends, is Tyson wanting answers from Kai, Kai being very much on top of the mountain and very much like fueled in power. Like his ego is very high right now. And even more, he is looking absolutely effing evil because of what he did. So, Live and Let Kai, what did it do right? The turn. The heel turn of Kai is absolutely the best thing they could have done. The way they revealed it, because Kai wouldn't tell Tyson.
Oh, yeah.
He would walk out and he'd be like, yeah, this is the way it is. Deal with it, mofo. So, do you have any thoughts on the heel turn?
Nope.
It's pretty much that. And it's for all the people that want to say, like, oh, no, it's out of character for Kai. No,
it's not.
That's the best part about it. It is not out of character for Kai. He would totally have done this. I think another positive has to be Black Dronzer. We finally got to see it in action. It is a powerful Beyblade. Doesn't really have an element or anything like that to it, but the fact that it can take your Bit Beast, I mean, this is basically what the Dark Bladers wanted to do this whole time, and now Kai can do it. It almost makes me wish that the Majestics and the Dark Bladers would show up just to get their reactions on this.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, at that point, I have to say that they are both positives. And just, yeah, also the positive of having that scene with Mariah and Emily, basically saying, yeah, this is going to be the cost of Kai's arrogance, is that he's going to be hurting the feelings of all of his little friends. Well, he never considered them friends. So I like that moment, even though I don't like Emily. I do like that moment. Do we think this episode did anything wrong?
Not really.
Yeah, not really. Like, I know that the Demolition Boys are all pissed because Kai is on an ego trip, but I like that, honestly, because it might actually get them to turn on him.
That's true.
And in reality, the power that they're basically saying that Black Dronzer has, you're probably going to need the Demolition Boys there too, to be able to take them out, because it's not like the All-Stars can help anymore.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they will probably get upset that Kai's taking all the good and glory out of their...
I mean, maybe you could call it a negative that Tyson's personality would have him jump the fence and immediately confront Kai, but what good would that have done?
Probably not.
I think even Tyson knows it wouldn't have done much. So why do it? Kind of thing. Maybe if it had been somebody else that was up against Kai, then maybe he would have done it, but I don't think anybody was really acting out of character here. I mean, we even got moments with Boris and with with Kai's grandfather basically saying, like, he's just growing in power. And so at that point, he's going to be able to do what the Biovolt Corporation wants him to do. Yeah, so out of 5, what would we give Live and Let Kai?
I would say 4.
I'm there too. 4.5 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the heel turn of Kai. And I mean, at the end of the day, I like the fact that it's basically setting up that it has to be Tyson versus Kai at the end of the series. I like that. And so we go into episode 44, Losing Kai. And this is where now we've had the fallout of the All-Stars defeat, and Kai's arrogance is basically growing. He literally, they have a scene in the Demolition Boys locker room when he doesn't realize why any of the other people are there. All Boris needs is him. And so obviously the Demolition Boys have a problem with that. We even get to see the third Demolition Boy, who's just a big burly blonde boy. But obviously Yuri and Ian are not happy about that in the slightest. So obviously this is basically setting up Kai as being the ultimate bastard to defeat. And so when they get ready for their next round, it is going to be the White Tigers versus the Demolition Boys. Gee, it's almost like they're setting things up to make it so that the Bladebreakers are the ultimate heroes. And it pretty much goes the way you think it's going to go. They do go one-on-one because the rules state that they have to. Kevin goes up against him with Galzi. And Kai...
Wait.
What?
Kevin?
Or not Kevin. It says Kevin in here, but no, it's crap, what was his name?
Gary,
thank you. Gary's Galzi up against Kai, and obviously Galzi gets trounced. In this case, we actually see another trait of Black Dronzer, because he doesn't use Black Dronzer. He actually starts using the other bit beasts that he's acquired. And I believe this one he uses Tripio to take out Galzi, and then absorbs Galzi. So Gary's obviously very disheartened by this, which then compels Mariah to be the next one. And I hate to be a broken record, but Mariah fails against Kai as well, and has Galax absorbed. To which this compels Lee to avenge both of his teammates, and he promptly loses, and loses Galleon in the process. And so now they are the White Tigers are basically in the same situation, because Kevin's Beyblade never faced off. So he still has his monkey. So maybe there's a silver lining there, or maybe Kai took him to a back alley and took his monkey. I don't know.
He probably destroyed it.
He'd be like, your monkey is unworthy of me. Bam! So at that point, yeah, this compels Tyson to want to confront Kai. And this is where we get, after the second round, Tyson decides, I'm going to the facility and I'm going to see Kai whether you like it or not. And refuses to leave until they allow him to see Kai. Which Kai, for some reason, like, Boris goes up to him and says, like, your friend Tyson's here. Do you want to actually see him? And initially Kai's like, no, I've got training to do or whatnot. but then decides, I will actually see him, to which Tyson basically gets to see for himself that Kai is very much on a power trip and very much sees himself as the greatest Beyblader of all time and will not side with the Bladebreakers and will destroy them instead and reclaim... I think he even says, I will claim your Dragoon and give it a proper home. And as his last action in this, when Kai is basically leaving, he tosses something to Tyson. We don't know what this something is until he gets out, but it is his original Dronzer. So at that point, obviously the Dronzer top still exists, but up until this point, it's just been in Kai's pocket, and he has now forsaken Dronzer in favor of Black Dronzer. So Tyson then officially decides at that point that he is not going to give up on Kai. He is going to face him in the finals, and he is going to knock some sense into him, whether Kai likes it or not. And that's how this episode basically ends. So what did this episode do right?
I just love that.
Again, Kai as a villain is actually working out really well.
And it's probably even better than when he faced the All-Stars. This time he started destroying Beyblade.
Even the Majestics, like the Majestics were like, you could argue that Leon, is it Leon? That was the Griffolian one.
I thought it was Robert.
Sorry. Robert. You could argue that Robert was kind of that elitist attitude, but he was just more arrogant and pompous. Like he just knew that he didn't need to waste his time. Whereas Kai is basically just destroying everybody and does not care who he's hurting in the wake. So at that point, I would say, he's very much getting set up as a very proper villain for Tyson to take down at the end of this series. But I also do like, I do think a positive is Tyson's reaction to him throwing the original Dronzer to him, because I think that was just basically fuel for the fire. And so now Tyson, I actually think it would be an interesting twist if Tyson used Dronzer against him, but I don't know if he can do that. That would be interesting if Tyson was wielding Dronzer and he goes up against Kai and Black Dronzer.
I guess if he only did that if Kai ended up taking Dragoon away from him.
Maybe.
Then he could use like Dronzer to kind of... Maybe.
But I guess we'll have to find out. Is there anything this episode didn't do right or did wrong?
Not that I thought it was a pretty good, decent episode.
I mean, some people could make the argument that, this wake of destruction, a lot of people's reaction might be a little bit more, a little bit hammed in, but it is a kid series, so they kind of have to ham it in a little bit. So I don't necessarily see that as a problem. Out of 5, what would we give Losing Kai?
4.5.
Yeah, 4.5. I'm right there. It's definitely building up towards an amazing match between the Bladebreakers and Kai. And even, I think it would actually still be pretty awesome if even the Demolition Boys basically stepped up and said, we're sick and tired of this crap. We'll side with the Bladebreakers against Kai. And it's just all of them against Black Dronzer. That'd actually be really cool. But that's going to go ahead and do it for us. That's all the episodes. So we will see you guys next time for the episode 45 through 48. And that'll be the second to last episode of the first season of Beyblade. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support the podcast. We appreciate that. And if you're brand spanking new on YouTube, please consider giving a like and a subscribe, as you can be able to see even more podcasts like this, or you can check out some of the other podcasts that we have done, like, say, on Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, or Rising of the Shield Hero, or Fruits Basket. And also, you can leave in the comments below if you have an anime or a series you would like to suggest. We do actually consider them, and we try to put them in the list as best as we can. And also, for those who are listening in podcast format, you can continue to support us by subscribing to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, and Player.fm. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us. So we will see you guys next time for episodes 45 through 48 of Beyblade Season 1. Can Tyson win against Black Dronzer? Only time will tell. But until then, I think it's time, Andrea, for us both to say, let it rip!